would now like to move to the next talk. We have another session on nurturing creativity by the renowned writer and academician Mr. Bijit Sinha.
Mr. Bijit Sinha, a former Cambridge University press editor, has made significant contributions to the literary world as the founder of The Tale of You and an experienced writing coach. With over 7 years of experience in education, he has honed his skills as a subject expert and resource person, providing valuable insights and working on projects with CBSE and CIET. With the founder of Tale of You, Mr. Sinha, he has produced numerous opportunities for emerging writers to showcase their talents and get published and featured in prestigious outlets like Oxford, Crossword, and Kunzum bookstores. The publishing imprint focuses on amplifying diverse and powerful voices in literature with themes that include the struggles of women in a male dominated society, the quest for self discovery and belonging, the challenges and hardships of twins, and the complexities of teenage relationships.
By publishing works that delve into these topics, The Tale of You aims to provide a platform for aspiring writers to express themselves and connect with readers who can relate to their experiences. As a writing coach, Mr. Sinha has helped aspiring writers refine their skills and reach their full potential. In addition to editing commercial fiction such as the Kalki and Narsimha series by Kevin Missel, he has also provided guidance and assistance to students seeking admission to overseas institutions, leveraging his expertise in educational policy, sustainable development goals, and innovative teaching methods. Through his workshop, he has become a sought after resource for educational institutions seeking to improve their practices and outcomes. We now warmly welcome Mr. Bijit Sinha on stage.
I was going to throw a double to quote sometime, but I think it's better. Can you hear my voice now? Yeah? Fantastic. Guys, I know you're tired, so I'm going to keep it extremely short. But thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. Right? So just to introduce myself again, I am a writing coach, and I've spent almost the better half of a decade working in the educational and editing space, both at Harper and Penguin. And I primarily associate myself with Cambridge. And today I just want to give you the insider secrets of what is required to get published, what you actually need to include in your proposal to get published, right? So I'm not supposed to share these, but I believe this would be of help to you. So I have one quick question. How many of you are aspiring writers? Okay, and how many of you are hoping to get into the editing or editorial space? Just one, two. Okay. I hope this presentation is of help to you. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to interrupt, because I want to keep this as a fluid discussion. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Yeah, next one. So a little bit about me. This is the agenda here. We are going to talk about the imprint, which is the Tale of You, and we are basically going to talk about the basic tenets of your pitch, of what you need to include in your proposal. We're also going to touch upon the editor's checklist, the most coveted list, which every editor from every major publishing house refers to before they commission a title, right? And then finally, I hope I'm of some help here, at least to those who have written something. And I hope I can. My biggest takeaway from this session would be to inspire some of you and help you come up with your premise, and see you sometime soon, possibly the next year or so in the author space here. Let's move on to the next list. So, just to repeat myself again, I'm a writing coach. I'm the founder of Tale of You. I have edited multiple titles in commercial as well as non-fiction. I have developed and edited the Kalki trilogy and the Narasimha trilogy by Kevin Mitchell. You must have read Kevin Mitchell's books, right? Have you read Kevin Mitchell's books? A show of hands, please. Okay, and how many of you are interested in mythological fiction? Okay, quite a few. So it'll be quite interesting to know your, to understand where you come from. Other than that, I'm also part of the editorial team of Ramashekar Pandey, who happens to be the CEO of Tata Green. He's coming out with his non-fiction book sometime this autumn. Can move to the next slide. So these are a couple of titles which we have released. The past year, we have released 8 titles in 2022, most of which have been featured in Hindustan Times, Times Group, and Times of India. And believe me, most of these titles have been written by debut authors. None of these authors were published prior to their first titles with us, right? So other than the book list, we have tied up with UNDP on certain sustainable projects, and we've also aligned ourselves with CBSE and NCERT. Other than that, we have been associated with Oxford, Gunzum, and Crosswood, especially for promotions. That I'll come to in the second half of this presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, this is quite an interesting question, and I want to understand where you come from. Here's what I want to know. I'm not talking about writing here, but how many of you have fantasized or even thought of writing a book? Okay, great. So what's stopping you? I need a mic to pass here, so I want to make it a good conversation. So, show of hands again, for those who have even thought of writing a book, or who have come up with an idea. I want to understand what's stopping you from writing that particular book. Say, please, I need your answers. Yes. You don't know how it starts, you don't know how it ends. That's all right. So what you do have is a premise then, yes? What else? I need a few more answers. Yes?
Well, I do have an idea, but then I did start on it. It's
Right.
just whenever I come up with an idea, starting with it is not a problem when it does come to me. It's somehow when I get to the center of it, or when I have thought out of a few chapters or maybe a few plot lines, I can't seem to find the end. How would that work out? So that's what happened to me. I recently did start something which I thought would be good, and coming to a good end, like 2-3 chapters or pages in, and I'm like, okay, I don't know where to go with it. That the end does not seem to fit in. That's the problem. That's what's.
What's the genre again? What's your
I,
genre?
this is the first time I'm trying out, so I started with something which is more like fiction fantasy.
Okay, great. Can I suggest you a particular course by Dan Brown? It's available on Masterclass to take a quick look. He might be able to help you out with your endings. That and Neil Gaiman. See, these are the two traditional approaches, right, which we usually take when we start writing. This is the stage when we have conceived our idea. We've not even thought of writing. All we just want to do is just put the first word on a piece of paper or an empty document. And most often, we think that we need a tremendous amount of research, right? How many of you are familiar with these terms? Plotter and pantser. Do you know what these terms mean? Okay. So I need to ask you a quick question again. Let's say you have come up with an idea, and you want to, you have no idea how you're going to structure the book, but you want to write the first page. What's your usual approach when you write your first page? If you could pass a mic, that would be great. Yeah. So what's your approach when you write your first page? let me take it out for you then. You see, in the publishing world, we often attribute two key traits to writers. One's their fantastic way of scheduling things. The other, procrastination. All writers love to procrastinate, but beneath all that, they have two writing approaches. One's that of a pantser, the other is that of a plotter. And if we think about it in, in their dictionary terms, a pantser would be somebody who would just not give much thought to a plot or a particular structure, who just get down to writing. A plotter, on the other hand, would want to know almost every single thing about the world that they're creating. I might as well ask you, how many of you are familiar with Margaret Atwood? Surely you have read her books. Margaret Atwood. Have you watched or read her book, The Handmaid's Tale? Yes? Yes? Fantastic. So, in The Handmaid's, can you tell me exactly how she conceived the idea of a handmaid's tale? Your best guesses. Your best guesses would work just fine. How did she even come up with the idea of The Handmaid's Tale? No? Alright. See, The Handmaid's Tale is about this society in totalitarian England. Quite a dystopian, future-centric society, right? But Atwood didn't want to do anything with the society. In fact, that came much later. All she cared about was the kind of breakfast that these people would eat. And that was the founding premise, the founding question behind the book. That said it all. That set the benchmark for the story that she was going to write. And that is what we call a plotter. A plotter who doesn't have a definite direction, who starts from a vague point and then proceeds to add random and unseeming clues and evidences to a story. There's no end to what they would add, to what they would create in premise. On the other hand, you have a pantser who all of us believe to be somebody who is frantic, rampant, has no idea of the structure, which is not true. You see, it's all about scope between these two. It's the difference in scope between these two writers. The pantser does his or her due research, but the pantser limits the scope. A pantser would not even think about discovering the word before writing. He or she would just allocate 5 to 10 questions per topic and then stick to it. A plotter, on the other hand, would love to know more before even committing to writing. And therein lies your approach. First, figure out which style fits you the most. Right? Understand which style works out for you. Are you willing to wait are you willing to wait for a decade in order to get your book published, or do you want to get it out right now? None of these approaches are they're not wrong. You can't think of them. You can't place a hierarchy on top of them. You can't say that just because somebody has spent a month writing a book, that immediately confirms the lower or the lower quality of a book. Please understand that it's all about the intent. If you've managed to come up with a fantastic manuscript, if you've managed to do your due research, that's all that matters. Okay. Next slide, please. Let me move on to the 3 tenets of pitch here. And believe me, this is universal for every publishing house. Some of you mentioned Stranger Things, I believe. How many of you fans of Stranger Things here? Quite a lot. Okay. If I were to ask you to summarize the entirety of the story in one sentence, what would it be? What would be the summary of the story of Stranger Things? Right, the existence of... but it was not called Underworld, was it? Upside down, correct, fantastic. When the creators pitched their series to the network, this is what they had in mind, okay? All they had was one line, just one line. And it was, when a young boy disappears, his mother, a police chief, and his friends confront terrifying supernatural forces to save him by all means. And that's it. That was it. That is the exact line which they used to pitch Stranger Things to Netflix. And that is what you need. Believe it or not, an editor is not going to spend more than 2 minutes of the time previewing through your manuscript or your proposal. You must capture their attention in those initial 20 seconds. And the best way you can do that is through one sentence that encapsulates it all, that serves as a brilliant hook and also serves to raise the intrigue of your story. And that is what we call a log line. And this should be the first sentence of your proposal. Just one line summarizing your premise. We move on to the synopsis, again, which comes right under a log line. A synopsis is a summary of your story. Many believe that it should tell the story in its entirety, but what you really need is one paragraph, not more than 5 sentences, just listing the hook, the beginning, middle, end. That's it. Add your twists, whatever you want, but it need not be more than 5 sentences, because you only have 2 minutes to help the editor make the point. The editor is the final bridge between the commissioning of a project and pretty much the author. So you will need to make their lives easier. You need to ensure that they're choosing a better manuscript for their title. Now we move on to the marketing plan. I want to ask you all one particular question, right? Whenever we think about a marketing plan, I think Saksham detailed it in its entirety, but whenever we speak of a detailed marketing plan, what do you think should be included in one? What do you think should be included in one marketing plan? Sorry? The demographic? The demographic? Right. True. The demographic, correct. The age group that you're catering to. What else? Sorry? Culture. True. But what stops you from turning in a marketing plan of 100 pages versus a one-pager marketing plan? What's the difference between the two? You could pretty much add anything from your references. You could add the contacts you know. You could add the people you know in the publishing world. You could add the media, the media features or the media houses you're acquainted with. What's the bottom line to it all? Yes.
Right. The important points, they will read to it and get a basic idea. But if you write 100 pages, no one's going to sit there and read 100 pages for no reason.
True. That is true. Ideally, it should not be more than 2 pages. But here's the thing, right? Underneath that marketing plan, underneath that entire structure, or let's not call it a facade, but the structure of marketing plan, here's what you need. You need to suggest ways to build your reading community. Just like you all of you here, because you love the mythological space, because you have read certain titles from that genre. But how do I know that? I've seen that love emerging from you when you have encountered, when you've spoken about Percy Jackson, you've spoken about Mish. That shows the kind of care that you have for the genre. And that's exactly what you need in a marketing plan. You're not supposed to show ways to sell. You're supposed to list ways in which you can show ways of connecting with the community. A community that's exclusively yours. It doesn't matter if it's word of mouth. It doesn't matter if it's a list of institutions. All you need to do is create a list of possible communities that will come together, that will create a reading circle around your premise, around your IP. And that's exactly what you want in a marketing plan. Okay? Ideally, not with it. Next slide, please. So probably going to skip this one, but because I feel there are not many writers here. So let's move on to the next one. Right. So this is exactly the list which an editor refers to whenever they have to select your title. The first is topicality. You see, let me give you an example. How many of you are familiar with Premchand? All of you are. Fantastic. Imagine a scenario, right, where Premchand would be alive today, and let's say he would have proposed the idea of Godan to Penguin at Random House at this day and age. Do you think they would have commissioned it? Do you think Penguin or Harper or Rupa would have commissioned Premchand at this day and age? Why? Why is that? Why would they not commission his book? Times are different. And that's exactly the first point, topicality. Whatever you've written, whatever you've come up with, whatever fantasy you have created, if it's not the need of the hour, it is not going to get through. Right? And there's one way to go around it. Always check Google Trends. That's a tip that I can give you. Check Google Trends and find out if if the topic is popular in your region, which would be the South Asian region. But always ensure that the topic, that the premise of your story is topical. Now, I think I've spoken about the marketing plan, so I'll just skip that one. Whenever we talk about USP, right? Let me give you an example here. Mr. Ramashankar Pandey, who recently wrote this book called Passion, Purpose, Pasa. When it reached my desk, all I had in mind was whether this copied Ankur Wariku's book, Too Epic Shit. All I had in mind was whether this would be just another rundown version of existing finance books. Turns out it was not, because what he has done was a rather clever and brilliant approach. Rather than cater to the 8-tier cities, all he did was come up with a digestible financial plan for not for adults but for students, and that was his niche. That was his USP. He followed the exact same formula, but all he had was a digestible plan for students. Students who are eager to learn more about personal finance. Students who are bound to encounter financial learnings, and who would be more eager to purchase that kind of a book. And this is what Mr. Pandey had worked on, right? That could be considered a niche or a USP of your book. So it doesn't matter if you're treading along a similar path, if you're writing a similar genre. Let's say if you're writing another book on Shiva, right? You could say that it's just a copy of a niche. All you need to do is just tweak that formula. See if you can find a niche in that entire category. And if you've done your homework, you're sure to get published. Let's move on to the next slide, please. I forgot, is the designer still here? I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. Dave, can you stand up, please? Is he here? Okay. So I think it would have helped a few designers in the room, but other than the text, your book tells a lot. Your book does tell a story, and there are certain things which you can do in order to pitch your book better. First, I'll start with the cover. Now, whenever you go through particular covers, ensure that you check all the Amazon pages, the Amazon previews, and take a look at two factors. The first is typology, and the second is the graphics, right? Now, whenever we talk about typology, there are certain fonts for each genre. For example, Sarah J. Maas uses Helvetica in Helvetica Narrow in her books. Now, that's something that you can do, or if you want to identify a particular font in a genre, you can use Find a Font, which is an AI app to identify the particular font of a book. But other than that, here's what you can do: go to Amazon, check the best-selling books of that particular genre, then move on to the typography of that book cover. Other than that, you can take a look at the descriptions. Now, descriptions hold a particular secret here. And this is something that we've learned in the past 5 years. Whenever you scrutinize particular descriptions in your genre, always check for buzzwords. Now, there's certain buzzwords which will be common and exist in across best-selling titles. Make a list of them and be sure to add it to your synopsis. Okay? And finally, it's just about creating your community. You see, your marketing plan is nothing more than a way to create stories. And I believe, I had a word with your committee here, and he asked me about the relevance of even publishing a book in today's world. And I'd like to quote something. I believe this would be of relevance to you. How many of you have watched this series called The Last Kingdom? I see one hand, but I think it'll be of relevance to you. The Last Kingdom is, again, a historical fiction book on the figure of Uhtred of Bevimba, and it's about the formation of England, the battles that led to the formation of England. And this particular series ends with a quote, right? Where Uhtred has won all the battles. He's standing in the hallway, deciding whether he should pass on his throne to the new king, or whether he should live longer to see the next few battles of the king. And it ends with this dialogue where they talk about the relevance of this figure and whether he would live long enough to see the world, or whether he would just remain a story. And the truth is that every single person in that battle was forgotten except for Uhtred. And Uhtred ends his speech by saying that lives do end, but stories live on. And that's a particular tenet that I'd like to leave with you today. And by insisting that stories do matter, and I believe that you all should share the written word and join us sometime soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that informative and entertaining session, I would like to say. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Anuja Singh to felicitate our guest.
Thank you everyone for your kind patience, and thank you, sir, for that amazing talk. I would now like to invite Alan Chago Thomas to give the vote of thanks.
Anyway, only 7 minutes of recording is left.
anyone wants to have their personal copies signed by the authors, you can approach them. They're sitting on the first row.
Dismiss no one.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Department of English and Cultural Studies, I'm honored to have the opportunity to express my gratitude to everyone who made it possible to make our literature fest a success. First and foremost, I would like to thank the Almighty for their abundant blessings. I sincerely extend my thanks to Father Bijit Sinha and Father Sunny Joseph for providing the avenue to establish a new legacy. I thank our HOD, Dr. Surekha, and extend my gratitude to our academic coordinator, Dr. Anuja Singh, for her constant support. Our super cool faculty coordinators, Dr. Jyoti Prakash Pujari and Dr. Aditi Dirgangi, thank you for helping us to organize the event. Our guest speakers, Ms. Deepa Agarwal, Mr. Saksham Garg, Mr. Bijit Sinha, and Mrs. Sunita Pant Bansal. I extend my gratitude to all of you for sharing your intriguing thoughts and being an integral part of our Literature Fest. I also thank Penguin Random House and Rupa Publications for their support. Now, I would also like to express my gratitude towards the CDL team under the leadership of Anup sir for their photography and videography services. Without the assistance of our reliable and trustworthy auditorium management team, headed by Edwin sir and Gaurav sir, none of this would have been achievable. I appreciate your technical support and your cooperation, sir. Now, I would like to express my deepest appreciation to my organizing team who helped us in bringing this fest to life. Your dedication and commitment to this project has truly been outstanding, and we could not have achieved success without your help. Lastly, I would like to thank the audience for your patience and encouragement and support throughout. And thank you for being an amazing audience and for coming to be part of the Christ University Literature Fest 2023. Thank you all.